Typically, whenever we're gonna travel to Florida, and this is what I recommend for you guys if you're gonna go down there, I take the 2-piece rods, I put them in a carry-on tube, and then you can carry them on the plane. In that same tube, I'll stuff my normal hand towel that I always have on whenever we're fishing. I always bring my own pliers. Keep in mind, if you're gonna carry them on the plane, they need to be less than 7 inches long or TSA will take them. Otherwise, they need to be in your luggage. I carry my normal aluminum Berkeley pliers. I've got those right here. We'll grab those out and I'll show you what those look like. These are the standard pliers that I always take with me everywhere we go, guys. And you've seen these on a million episodes. They're aluminum. They've got a replaceable cutter on them. Gotta have these when you go fishing somewhere. So I always bring these with me whenever we're going fishing. This particular pair has been to Florida a bunch of times, and as you can see, they're still good as new. The only thing I take as far as baits goes when we go to Florida is either some sort of a jerk bait, typically a Cutter 110, which is a fantastic jerk bait for saltwater fishing, even though it was designed for freshwater. Thank you, Dan Spangler. I will always carry some jig heads, 1/8 ounce, 1/4 ounce, and 1/2 ounce jig heads. Always bring those with us whenever we go to Florida, and a big selection of Gulp minnows. 3-inch minnows, 4-inch minnows, 5-inch Gulp jerk shads, 6-inch and 7-inch Gulp jerk shads as well. You can pair any of those with any of the sizes of the jig heads, and I guarantee you, you can catch almost any species that swims with those, from sharks to redfish to bonefish to jacks and everything in between. Little bonnethead sharks absolutely love Gulp minnows, and it's literally the same rods that we throw to catch bass. A couple other things I typically will bring. A Johnson Sprite spoon is a great call. That was originally invented as a redfish spoon, as I understand it. I bring it in only gold chrome and silver chrome. Those are the only 2 colors I bring, because the only time I throw it is when the sun's out and the water's reasonably clear. That's a great bait for fishing in really shallow water. Making big long throws with it, like a 1/2 to 1 ounce Johnson Sprite's a really good call. Everything I typically take for a week in Florida in terms of hard baits, jig heads, and spoons, maybe a lipless crankbait, all fits in this one box, guys. And so it's a little tiny Plano box, no problem. It's not very much to carry, weighs not very much. And of course, the other thing about Florida is you can run to a tackle store if you need to, but this is what I typically carry, so I'm ready to fish. And this one's been to Florida a whole bunch of times over the years. The other thing is, people always want to know, how do you get your Gulp there? How do you get your Gulp there? Or even in your boat. This little bait locker right here will not leak. Everybody knows that Gulp can be a mess. And if you notice, I've got a whole mix of baits inside that thing right there. A whole mix of minnows, also got a few Gulp shrimp in there. But that's how I get everything to Florida. I take 2 of these, ready to go, completely stuffed like that. Just mix and match them in there, make sure there's plenty of liquid, seal the lid real tight. I still put them in a Ziploc bag just in case. And I also put a paper towel in there should one of them leak. But every single time for the last 10 years I've been traveling to Florida, that bag comes out, or that paper towel comes out nice and clean. This is a fantastic way to transport your Gulp on an airplane. So the only real fundamental difference in tackle when we're going to Florida is the fact that the leaders change. So we already mentioned that we're fishing with braided line, 15 to 30 pound test, braided line. Prospect leaders, we bring the fluorocarbon leader material, and the reason we bring the fluorocarbon leader material, and you need it in Florida in most cases, is everything's got teeth or very rough lips. Snook have very, very rough lips and gill covers that'll cut you off. Important to have a leader, so I typically will bring 20, 40, and 60 pound leader material with me. That way I can use the same rod and the same line and the same reel. I can just change my leader depending on what I'm doing. When I'm throwing something like the Gulp minnow, I'll throw the heavier leader because the fish are more likely to get the whole bait in their mouth. If I'm throwing the jerk bait, I'll throw the lighter leader because I'm not worried about that so much. One thing to keep in mind when you're fishing in saltwater is, especially if you're not familiar with all the fish, is that a very high percentage of those fish have either teeth or gill covers or really nasty dorsal spines. In other words, they're a little bit more dangerous than most fish you're used to dealing with. Obviously, sharks and kudas have the big teeth. No! No, don't grab. Oh my God! Watch your feet, Tim. So some sort of a lip gripper or a boga grip or something like that can be very, very handy for handling those fish. The other thing is some fish are poisonous down there, so if in doubt, be very careful handling fish. There's a lot of the fish that I won't do anything but just reach over with a pair of pliers and unhook them. The one tip that I'll tell you that's really the best single tip for when you need to fish is get yourself a tide chart. Download it, get an app on your phone, do whatever you gotta do. but make sure you get yourself a tide chart. And what we always try to target our film hours are around the turns of the tide. The very top of the tide, the very bottom of the tide. If you're planning a trip to Florida, make sure that you try to plan it around a good moon phase, because that's what generates the big tide swings. What you want is the biggest possible tide swings you can get. That's when you're gonna get a lot of water flow, and that's when the fish are gonna bite. Another really good thing to take with you if you're gonna go to Florida on vacation, do a little fishing, you might wanna eat some fish, is some sort of a fillet knife. I bring an outdoor edge fillet knife like this. It's a folding knife, so therefore I have it if I wanna cut bait or if I wanna fillet something to eat. A lot of the places we stay, we have a kitchen or a kitchenette, and I commonly will want to eat fish, and so therefore I can use a knife like this to fillet them. It's small and fold, so it's easy to pack in your luggage. Don't carry this on the plane, obviously, but a little outdoor edge knife like that's a really good call, so that you can, like I said, cut bait or whatever you might want to do with it. And there's been a whole bunch of fish that we ate that wished I didn't have this knife. All right, guys, so there you have it, our trips to Florida. Hopefully you understand at this point in the show that you probably already have the tackle. If you're a bass fisherman or a pike fisherman, something like that, you probably already have the heavy enough tackle you need to maybe go visit your grandma, go to Disney World, whatever you might be doing in Florida. It's fundamentally the same thing. You don't have to go buy a whole bunch of specialized equipment just because you might be going on vacation in Florida like a million of you do. So if you have any other questions, shoot them to us at chat@fishfulthinker.com. Of course, our social media @FishfulThinker across all platforms. And please, please, please consider tuning in and subscribing to our YouTube channel @FishfulThinker. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.